And good evening from Charlotte. I'm James Brierton, and this is the Carolina Weather Group, a weekly podcast dedicated to weather, science, technology, and more from the Carolinas. Coming up in just a minute, we're going to hang out with Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley and his fellow meteorologists at WFMY, the CBS affiliate in Greensboro, North Carolina, as we continue our new series, Quarantining at Home. But first, let's check out the tropics right now. There's a system we are watching we want to bring to your attention. You can see it highlighted on the left-hand side of your screen there. This is an area of developing thunderstorms that the National Hurricane Center is giving a 70% chance of development over the next 5 days. Conditions right now do seem conducive to seeing some gradual development of this system as we head towards the weekend. It is, as you can see, moving generally to the northeast, and we're going to watch for the possible development of the first tropical storm or cyclone of the season, and if it were to eventually reach that depression or stronger stage, it would in fact take on the name Arthur. Here right now on the screen, courtesy of Tim Buckley's Twitter account, are the 2020 hurricane names, which include Arthur, as I mentioned, also Nana, if maybe you have kids who call your grandma or your mom Nana, their grandmother that would be, of course, and also Dolly. Some very interesting names that we're looking forward to here in the 2020 hurricane season, and we're going to watch to see if this cluster between Florida and Cuba will get its act together over the course of the next few days, and what exactly that would mean in the long run. Still have to wait to see if this thing even gets its act together in the first place, but we could be talking about some rough surf in places like Florida or Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina over the course of the next few days. So again, we'll be keeping a close eye on that. The next update from the National Hurricane Center is scheduled to come out tomorrow, Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Let's right now take a live look at the conditions at UNC Greensboro in Greensboro, North Carolina, courtesy of WeatherStem. 61 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. Otherwise, a fairly pleasant evening here in the Carolinas, and I'm going to hand things off to my co-host, Scotty Powell, to kick off Quarantining at Home with WFMY.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are here with the WFMY weather team. We have on with us Tim Buckley, Christian Morgan, and Terran Kirksey, and we're going to be getting to know them over the next few minutes. This is a new segment that we are rolling out and hope to do, but we're going to spend a little time just getting to know our local meteorologist, and everyone has been kind enough to donate some time. So we're just going to do a few quick hitting questions. These are just you guys can elaborate if you want, or you can just give a quick answer. So our first one is Twitter or Facebook? Which do you prefer more, Twitter or Facebook? I'll start with Tim.
Twitter, as long as it's not bad Twitter. But I like weather Twitter.
Okay. Christian?
Definitely Twitter. Facebook has the ability to take something you posted 3 days ago and highlight it 3 days later, which makes the information very much out of date. So I feel like Twitter, if you can't say it in 140 characters, then you're saying too much.
All right, here's one. I don't know if you guys have dabbled in these as much. TikTok or Snapchat?
Oh, boy. I'm old. I can't have a TikTok. I don't even think that's allowed. So I do have a Snapchat, but it's not something I post weather stuff on.
Yeah, I have Snapchat too, and I can't dance, so I'm not even going to adventure into the world of TikTok because it will be horrible. And I'll just let everybody else share the TikTok videos on Twitter, and then I'll watch them that way.
You don't want to be lip syncing?
No.
They both confuse me. I think I'm like, I'm older. I have an older spirit. So usually I just put my phone down when I get home. I don't want to know what's going on. I watch TV, and then when I wake up the next morning, people tell me what I missed, and I'm cool with it. I'm fine with it.
Keeping on the theme of technology and stuff, what about weather model websites? There's tons of them out there, and I know you guys may have some special software, so you don't have to go to all of these websites that us normal people have to use. But do you have one?
We have so much special software, and we pay all this money for all the great stuff. And I still love the Penn State e-wall the most.
Oh, you're biased.
Undecipherable. No one understands what it is. but I do because I went there, and that's just my comfort zone. It's like my chicken soup for my weather soul is looking at the page of garbled numbers, knowing what it means. So I do like, and it's the only one that has an easy to understand 6-panel chart for like the NAM and stuff, and I like a 6-panel chart.
Okay.
I've used that website for like 15 years, and I'm still confused by it. but it was the first website I used a lot though. Now I use Pivotal Weather a lot, and occasionally I look at some other ones if it's like hurricane season or something like that too.
Yeah, the first time I met Tim, he was showing me this Penn State e-wall, and I said, "What is this thing that looks like it's from 1985 that I cannot understand?" And I laughed at him for it, but he's like, "Oh, it's got all these charts and things on it." I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna find a different website." And then I took my weather classes and stuff through Penn State, and I was like, "Oh man, I really love the e-wall now." It's fun to actually sit and work side by side with Tim because we actually understand the Penn State e-wall and how great it actually is. But also like we do have it's something you have to pay for, but WeatherBell has some good maps on it. But I really like to use Pivotal Weather, especially when we look at severe weather parameters. They have it very easy to access on there.
I can't say that we've really dabbled in the e-wall, but definitely agree with you on WeatherBell and Pivotal. I think I'd have to throw in Tropical Tidbits just because that's where I started, and it's so nice having those easy soundings. Keep on this topic. Do you think that weather data is too easily available?
Yes, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Okay.
I have two opinions on this. Number one, I don't think it should be that easy. I don't think it should be easily available to people that aren't seeking it out. So what I mean is, like, if you want to like really be able to look at a weather model, of course I agree that's a good thing to be able to do. But I don't like that it gets out there to people that aren't wanting to see it. So it gets posted to Facebook, and then my grandma gets it and says, "Oh gosh, this is really bad." That's the bad part that we all know about. So in a perfect world, it's 1995 and only the weather folks have the weather models, but you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
I think with it being so accessible, yes, it's public knowledge. It's out there, so why can't you access it? But at the same time, you get a lot of these hype weather sites and, people who think they're weather gurus and don't really understand it. And they like to, screenshot things and then post hype weather stories based on looking at one model. People don't really take the time to actually dive into the models and try to find the consistencies in them. And a lot of people don't even know like the biases of the models and typically how they run. So having it so accessible is kind of doing, the weather folks a disservice. So we actually kind of have to take a step back and say, what you're seeing is not really accurate, but here's what we're looking at. So we almost have to kind of be careful where we step to make sure we cover the bases of what people are really seeing on Facebook and Twitter and what they're, sharing out at a mass rate.
Yeah, because 90% of the time when something looks bad 5 or 7 days out, it doesn't happen. So
Right.
I know my forecasting philosophy is usually like, okay, that looks like 10 days out. Oh, it looks horrible, but I'm not going to say anything. We'll just kind of pay attention to it. And then once we get in the, okay, it's 4 days out to 5 days out. If it looks really bad, okay, let me start kind of sprinkling this in. And then 3 days or less is when I'm more so like, okay, this is probably going to happen. But since it is out there and, the way that the models are visualized, some of the websites where it looks really, the color tables are really good, but you see something that looks terrible and then somebody will just like, Christian and Tim were saying, they'll see it and they'll put it out there and then it explodes and you have to do damage control the whole time. And then when it doesn't happen, people will say, well, you guys didn't know what you were doing. So
Yeah.
that's the way it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Terran has lobbied for us to change our 7-day forecast to a 3-day forecast.
All my career, I've been like 7-day forecasts. I don't like 7-day deterministic forecasts because most of the time the temperature 7 days out is going to be at least 5 or 8 degrees different, than what I said a week before. But that's just, again, my old man grumpiness. I've been complaining about that for my entire career, and it has not changed anywhere I've worked. So it's not gonna happen.
I did a little personal case study not long ago. I was like, okay, I'm going to take, my forecast sheet and I'm going to keep it. And here's what I put for day 7. And when I get to day 7, I want to see how much it's changed. And I mean, over those 7 days, the conditions change, the temperature changes. It's it's an evolving thing, especially once you get past 3 and 4 days.
Yeah, I even tell kids when I do school talks, like, okay, days like 5 through 7, don't worry about those.
It's more of a like, here's what we're looking at down the road. This is kind of a suggestion of where things may go. Kind of down the road.
Exactly. Yep.
And heavens forbid you put a snowflake in day 5 or 6 and it doesn't happen. Like,
never do that. That's a rule of thumb. Never do that. I could think it could be a blizzard. I'm not putting a snowflake on day 7.
Dig your own grave.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of bringing it back around for your viewers here. What was it that kind of jump started y'all to want to become weather people? Was there a defining moment, or was it something you kind of always knew you wanted to do?
Most people have like one weather moment that they saw or they lived through or they experienced. For me, I don't really have one of those, but I did grow up in probably the snowiest part of the country that people live in, which is upstate New York, right along Lake Ontario. We got like 200 inches of snow a year. And so weather was just hugely controlling of your life for about 4 to 5 to 6 months every winter. So I always wanted to know what the weather was going to be. I always watched the Weather Channel and told my mom what they were saying, even if she didn't care. And that's just what I was interested in. And the TV thing just kind of followed suit. I didn't know that was exactly what I wanted, but that kind of just worked itself out. So that was my spark, were snowflakes. And I hate snow, by the way. So it's just, maybe that's why.
Yeah, I'm going to catch heat for this from Tim and Terran, but I really like snow. And see, look. They've unclaimed me. So always, that was my thing. And my birthday is in January. And for a while, there was a couple of years where it always snowed on my birthday or within a couple of days of my birthday. So that kind of, I've always was interested in weather. And actually, I never knew that's what I wanted to do as a career. I always wanted to do broadcasting, radio or TV of some sort, and work in radio for a while and then try to get my foot into TV and a couple different avenues. And then the weather thing just kind of popped up. That's where I was able to kind of get my foot in the door. And I knew I enjoyed it and kind of got my foot in the door. And actually, kudos to Tim for helping me and helping me learn a lot and teaching me and kind of really growing that passion for weather that I had. And so much so that it sparked my interest to actually go back to school and get my meteorology certifications and stuff. And so here we are. It all kind of came full circle at one time.
For me, I'm from the deep South. I'm from Alabama originally. And so I grew up a bunch of tornado events, and one time I saw one and that just kind of locked it in for me. And so that just made me interested in, because, when you're a little kid and you have tornado warnings, you get a little scared, and that fear made me want to learn more about them. And so, so now, that led me to kind of pursue meteorology as a career. When I was in college, I was somewhat interested in broadcast, but probably more into research. The broadcast thing just kind of happened, and I've just been doing that ever since. But I do want to say I do not like snow. Snow is terrible. I hate tornadoes too, because tornadoes are bad, as we've seen. So I just like I think I like more so the challenge of forecasting as opposed to certain weather events, weather phenomena. Yeah, that's a word. Yeah, I said it right.
Phenomenal.
My short career so far that I've had, I've already learned that weather is a very humbling thing. Forecasting weather is a very humbling thing, because you have this period of time where you're on it. You're like, man, I'm accurate. This is, it's working out. And then something falls in your lap and it's, you're like, okay, I'm gonna come on back down to earth now. But yeah, so the challenge is fun. And also, weather is one of those things, like, you think about it now, we've got everything going on with the coronavirus, but weather doesn't stop. Like, it's something that never changes, and it's something that's always happening, no matter what's going on. And people always, no matter what they're doing, whether they're staying at home, or whether this is a normal period in time where people are going to work and kind of coming and going as they please, weather affects everybody in some way, shape, or form. And to be able to, be one of the folks who's actually looking at that and helping you kind of plan your day, providing that service for you, I think is something that internally, and in my mind, I really, really enjoy.
I have a running joke with Terran. I guess you've been here about 3 years or so, man, like that. And when he was on his interview, he's asking, what's the weather really like in the Carolinas? And, he's been in Oklahoma and Mississippi. And I say, you know what, man, we don't get that much severe weather. Every now and then we get a tornado. Every now and then we get some hurricanes, but they're mainly at the coast, and we're in the Piedmont. And every once a year or so we get some snow, and sometimes it's big, but it's not much. And then weather just happened all the time, and we had lots of tornadoes. We had a Greensboro tornado. We had all these hurricanes that came right into the Piedmont, all this crazy snow. So it's Terran's fault.
So
it is.
Is it following you, Terran?
Clearly, it must be. I'm sorry. I apologize to everyone.
So now I'm connecting the dots, because first we blamed it on Grant Gilmore when he left. And so now it's actually Tim's fault, because he said we don't really get, and ever since then, all heck's broken.
Jinxed us. Yeah.
That's right. Everything was quiet when Grant was here. When he left, it just went crazy.
Note to
So
self,
just
no claims about North Carolina weather at all.
a quick follow up there, Terran. The tornado that you saw, you were younger and you had a clear kind of visible of that. What kind of happened in that experience?
There was I remember the day. I was in Huntsville, Alabama at the time, in North Alabama, and there was a tornado warning, and the meteorologist was saying, hey, it's headed towards this part of Madison County, which is maybe about 5 or so miles north of where we are. Then the power kind of flickered or went out, and of course, we looked outside. So you're not supposed to do that. And we were looking north, and you can barely see it, in the distance, but I could see it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's wow. This is it. I was scared, but I was also kind of mesmerized. My parents knew that it wasn't going to hit us, so they were okay with me looking outside, okay, it's up there, it's fine. But just watching it was. It kind of, just solidified my interest, because I've always been somewhat interested in weather, even when I was younger than that. But there was a meteorologist in town that would do such a great job kind of teaching the meteorology. I know some people don't like that, but for me, I would always sit in front of the TV and watch the severe weather coverage, and I would learn so much about how to look at radar. What are you looking for? These are different variables that, you can look at using the radar. And again, this is in the 90s. And so it's been a huge explosion of different things now, but it made me more and more interested. And then, obviously, I reached out when I got in high school, and he was gracious enough to let me, intern from when I got in college, but to let me shadow him when I was in high school. And it just kind of went from there.
Give us a name. Come on.
It was Dan Satterfield.
Okay.
I know that's a name that, some people had different opinions, but he was
awesome.
And even to this day, he's, just so gracious, if I ever have a question or anything, or, he has always been one of those people that I could, hey, I don't understand this, I don't understand that. And he's one of the big reasons I ended up going to Oklahoma. He started telling me, oh yeah, a lot of tornadoes out there, you can learn a lot. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll try it. So yeah.
Well, that's great. I think you're reading right off our question sheet. One of the next ones I was going to ask is, do you guys have a weather role model? So, Terran, just got your answer. Tim, Christian, a weather role model?
I wasn't that active. It was hard. It seemed crazy back, when I was growing up, which is not that long ago in the 90s. It seemed crazy that you would actually be able to reach out and talk to your meteorologist locally. That is so accessible now with social media. So I didn't really have any interaction with any of my local meteorologists, but there's a guy by the name of Dave Eichhorn up in central New York who was on Syracuse television for a long time. And I would always watch him and Dave Longley and Jim Teskey. Two of them are still there. And they really geeked out about the weather. And I wouldn't say they got excited about the weather when it was bad, but they really did have a professorial approach and really explained it a lot. And I liked that. And I thought that was really interesting. And they would really tell you, if this lake effect band isn't here and it's there, there's a reason why. We're not able to predict it that precisely. And so those were definitely the folks that inspired me, even though I didn't really interact with them much. The funny part about now being in the position that I am and having social media is we interact a lot on social media together now, just chatting about local weather. And they know I'm from my little small town that they cover and all that stuff. So it's cool.
That's neat.
Yeah, for me, so I actually grew up in this market. So I was very in tune with all of the weather folks in the market at the time. And so there was one person that I won't name because we're with, a competing station right now, but I watched them all the time. And that's just kind of, I would always, that would always be the thing. And when they were calling for snow, that's what I wanted to know about. That's who I wanted to see. And I wanted to learn, why it was happening, and also more so to know how much we were going to get. But at that point, like Tim said, I never really thought that, when I was in middle school, that you could actually reach out to those folks and actually, have a conversation with them. And, some folks, that I've learned over the years, some folks are more gracious of giving their time than others are. But I will say, and again, Terran and Tim can probably speak to this because they've been in it longer than I have, of course, but maybe the way that social media and has kind of groomed us over the last, in this age that we're in, I think that the connectivity, being able, whether you're competing stations or not, but kind of the network of meteorologists and kind of being able to toss ideas back and forth and discuss those things. There's a more of an open line of communication, I think, than there used to be, which is definitely a good thing for not only the folks who are in it now, but the people who are aspiring to be meteorologists as well.
We're here right now. That's a testament to having more access to your local meteorologists than perhaps there was back in the 90s, like you said, Tim.
Everything has changed so much. I didn't even know what a computer model was or that they existed until I got to college. Like, I didn't know any of that really. And I don't know that I was unique in that either. Once you got to school, you're like, oh, there were these tools that I didn't know that existed. Here's how we use them. And then I kind of, learned it very quickly. But before that, I mean, the amount of information that 12-year-olds know now that are weather enthusiasts is about the same as like what I had like as a sophomore in college. It's amazing. It really is.
Oh yeah, same for me. I mean, the first time I saw a forecast model was when I shadowed that time, and they had the DIFAX maps or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, this is printing out. So this is how you all figure out the forecast weather. Oh, okay, cool. Before that, I had no idea.
I actually have some of those DIFAX. Eric Thomas. I went to visit Eric Thomas in Charlotte, and I have them somewhere in the basement. I need to pull them out and see if I can find them. But I have a question. It's going to kind of tie 3 or 4 questions that we have together. It's kind of the future of meteorology, working from home, and the role of social media, which we all 3 are experiencing right now in the COVID-19 pandemic. So what are your thoughts on the future? Do you see working at home maybe more of a thing to come and doing a lot more via social media?
I think that, I mean, obviously, kind of hate the reasons why, we've gotten to this point, where a lot of people are working from home, hate that there's, the virus is kind of causing all this disruption. But with that said, a lot of friends I've been talking to over the past, somewhat talking to, I'm kind of introverted. Occasionally I'll ask them a question. I got to have one conversation a week with friends. But basically we were talking about, hey, it's 2020. The idea of going into an office every day in many industries is antiquated. If you're in sales or something like that, why do you have to go into an office building when you could just make your calls from home, or you can go and drive to your different sales spots from home and work out of your home office and maybe go to the office once a week. I think a lot of employers are seeing that their employees can be just as productive or even more productive at home, depending on how they work or what works best for different people. I know everybody's different though, so for extroverts it's probably important that they go into the office regularly to get that social interaction. For introverts, they might work better in solitude. So I think that as meteorologists, when you look at it, most weather days are fairly benign, fairly quiet. And I feel like on those days, working from home should be more of an option for all meteorologists. But you also have days where there's the threat of severe weather where that's not probably the best method. That's just kind of my 2 cents on that. I don't know what you think, Tim.
I mean, I definitely do miss being able to interact with folks at the station. However, typically meteorologists aren't interacting with one another personally face to face because we're on different shifts. So it doesn't change that much between us working together. Christian and I do have a lot of overlap at the station just because of our schedules. But aside from that, the main difference is just being able to show things in front of a wall and explain things by pointing them out, and maybe some interaction with other anchors and stuff like that. I don't think that I'm surprised at how much we've been able to do at home, and I do think that this might continue, to be an option in the future on quiet days. I don't see why not. So we'll see what happens. It's new for everybody. So what we did learn this past week, though, and whenever this is aired, we had a tornado situation back on this past Monday. That is something that very much needs to be at the station.
Mm-hmm.
And just the reason for that is, we don't have backup power at home. The building does, and we can explain it. And I think there's a comfort to folks at home who are able to actually see us at work. On top of it, we got it covered. Don't worry.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'll real quick. I'll echo off what Tim said about our severe weather event this past Monday, and I was actually working from home, and Tim and Terran were in the studio, of course, very much separated because of social distancing guidelines right now. But the other thing, and I know that this is again, the quality that we're able to put out, even working from home, video quality, audio quality, is pretty mesmerizing, honestly, because we never thought that we'd be at this point. But the other thing, there's also still a lot of downfalls with it. And one of those being the fact that when you remote into whatever weather software you have, there's going to be some sort of latency at whatever rate, which does, I noticed this working from home on Monday. When you have that, it does make storm tracking, especially in like a severe weather event, it makes it more difficult because, you're trying to move the map around, and because of the latency you may have in some, like if you're remoting into a computer, well, you might have moved past it too much, and then you got to kind of scoot it back a little bit. There's just so many extra steps, and even extra seconds can be crucial in a severe weather event. But taking an overall approach to it, working from home is interesting. I've always been one of those folks who, all right, I have to get up and get ready and then go out the door to kind of get my, get my mind in the right place to do work. So working from home has been a challenge for me to kind of get into that groove. It's not so much a challenge anymore just because we've been doing it now, for a month at least. But having that interaction with folks in the building, even though, here's the weather center over here and here's the news people over here, and we come together at the newscast, just kind of having that interaction. And the lines of communication are, of course, a whole lot better. Tim and Terran, and if you've been in a newsroom, like this, like you can just scoot the chair back and you yell something across the room or say something across the room. Now working from home, okay, got to send this email, or did I check this on the little chat, or did I send somebody a text message? So the communication line kind of is something you have to kind of double check yourself on. But I think there's something about, if the weather's nice, of course, we can forecast from anywhere. Yes, we have some tools at the station, but we can do a forecast from anywhere as long as we have internet. We can even look up stuff on our phone, if we need to do that. But working from home and putting the forecast together, is easy. But I think when things return to normal, if we are seeing more work from home situations, I think just being in the station, being in the studio, at least for the shows, has a value to it that you can't replace.
No, absolutely. It's amazing all of the just how much we've seen this working from home thing develop over the last 2 months. Who would have thought that just about every single meteorologist in the nation would be broadcasting from their office with their cat in April. So it's just unreal. So we only have a few minutes left, y'all. So we're each going to ask you one kind of silly, lighthearted, fun question. So I guess, Tim, I'll start off with you and we'll go around. What is your favorite non-weather hobby?
Favorite non-weather hobby? Getting outside and hiking and taking pictures. That's it.
Great choice.
And I know it's supposed to be fast, but I got this hobby, I think, by a product of working weather. And the reason is when I moved to Greensboro, I was working weekends. My days off were Wednesday and Thursday. No one in the world, let alone in our building, has days off on Wednesday, Thursday. So I had nothing to do. So I got in my car and I would drive to pretty places like Hanging Rock or the Blue Ridge Parkway or something like that. I would drive a long way and get to know the area. And then I got to know hiking. And at the time I was just taking pictures on my iPhone. And then I kind of, started getting a better camera. I don't take as good pictures as Dan, but I try. He's my inspiration for good photos as well. So that's my hobby.
Christian, Terran?
Music for me. I'm a drummer in a 10-piece party and dance band
Oh, wow.
that plays across the Southeast quite a bit. So music is my outlet. And then I love being outdoors. So even though I'm not that great at it, I love going golfing. And that's the nice thing from working from home. Like even on these days, if I don't go in until the afternoon, the days working from home, I can just, walk out or go to the golf course and walk a couple holes and kind of get my fresh air for the day. And so, yeah, but music is my main hobby. Golf would be the second one.
I like to spend time outside as well. Just kind of sitting outside is always nice. And I like the barbecue, which is a verb and a noun.
Okay.
It's a verb and a noun, contrary to popular belief. Read the dictionary, it's a verb and noun. Sorry, anyway.
That's true.
But
Southern thing.
It is, yeah. It's a verb and a noun in Alabama, and it's a verb and a noun in North Carolina too.
Do people up north not think that it's a verb?
Well,
They
there's
use
some
it
people-
much differently. Yeah.
Oh,
Altogether.
Lord.
I can
That's
run out the clock on this if you want to.
Go
We
for
call
it.
the actual thing that you cook with the barbecue instead of the grill. So this is the whole, and the cookout up north is called a barbecue as well.
Yes.
I'm telling you, that's the way it is up there.
Yeah, once all this social distancing stuff clears up, I'm waiting for some Terran ribs. Every Saturday. Every Saturday I see a post of Terran cooking.
I've had extra time on my hands, so
I need to be
Maybe
better
our
for
next
WFMY.
lightning round will be in person.
There you go.
Terran, I gotta ask you, vinegar or tomato-based sauce? Well, I mean, that's the big debate here in North Carolina.
Man, she about to get me in trouble, man. All right, so again, I'm from Alabama, but I spent most of my life in North Alabama. So Memphis style barbecue is what I'm used to. And then when I lived in Oklahoma, Texas style barbecue is kind of one of my big things too. I like more tomato based barbecue sauce. Like you have to put, for me, I do put some apple cider vinegar as I'm cooking it, but I don't just douse it in it. Like I just want a little bit of tang and then more sweetness. That's just what I prefer.
Very nice. Very nice. We'll give that to you.
Terran on that. I'm with Terran on that. Even though I'm from North Carolina, I don't want to eat barbecue and have my throat burn. With all that vinegar. A good mix, a good middle of the road barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Christian, I didn't.
Because we need the viewers to still like us after that. Disparaging barbecue or whatever.
And these are the fun questions.
Christian, I didn't know you golf, so next time I'm in the air. We'll have to go hit the course.
We'll do it, absolutely.
All right, so one last, question before we wrap. Do you have a favorite weather or disaster themed movie? And if you all three say Twister, Yahtzee.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. It's so bad, but it was so entertaining. And growing up, I was like, "Oh man, this is awesome." So yeah,
there was a volcano movie too that was really bad. What was the name of it?
It was Volcano.
Dante's Peak.
Yeah, in the 90s.
Dante.
Dante's
Yeah, there were two
Peak.
of them. There's Dante's Peak, and then Volcano was in L.A.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
They're all really bad.
yeah.
The worst one is The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh, gosh.
Are you telling me that's not accurate?
It is horrific. And I was in New York in January, and I went to the New York Public Library, which is a great free place to go. You should go sometime and check it out. It's beautiful. I took a picture in there and said, "Oh, it's a great place to visit." And everybody posted, "This is where they filmed Day After Tomorrow. Jake Gyllenhaal is all over these places." I was like, "Oh no, I'm reliving this horrible movie."
Oh, well, guys, I have one question. I know you're talking about places to visit. We want to give a little love to the Triad areas. So what's your favorite place to visit? If you have visitors coming to the Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem area, where is your favorite place to go visit? Where would you recommend to people?
Could I guess vote for Hanging Rock, or is that too far away? I really
No,
like
that's great. No, that's
really
right.
like I really like the parks. Hanging Rock is amazing. And I love just hiking up and stuff, and that's probably one of the cooler I guess public parks I've been to in the state.
Pilot Mountain's a great hike too. That's in the Triad, and it's probably, if we're talking Triad specific, that's probably my favorite. But if somebody's visiting the Triad, a couple, it's a quick shot up to the mountains and the Blue Ridge Parkway too. So we have a lot in our backyard. That's the nice thing about being in the Triad. We got a lot of great places here, but also a quick drive in a car, and you can take a quick day trip, whether beach, mountains, whatever it is.
All those places are great. I will be like the ambassador. If you guys have any questions about where to eat, where to drink, where to go, outside, there are so many good parks here, seriously. And just having lived in multiple states and multiple places, most places don't have as many parks as we do and as many good parks as we do. And I really appreciate the dedication to saving outdoor spaces. City of Greensboro, every lake, there's a trail around it at all points. That's crazy. And there's really great opportunity to get outside, and we don't have traffic, and we have good food, good drinks and stuff. So come on down whenever you're allowed to, and we'll give you a good recommendation.
I'm sold, Tim.
Dan likes it here. Okay, good.
We certainly appreciate your time today. We talked about social media, so I'd feel bad if I didn't say, hey, give your guys a plug. How can they follow you guys on social media?
Sure. Twitter or Facebook. Of course, mine is Tim Buckley WX. Just search Tim Buckley Meteorologist on Facebook. You can find me there. Instagram too, but I don't post much weather there.
And mine is just TK Weather, like weather spelled out. So TK and then weather spelled out on, the internet. So I'm on there. On the Google machine, just Google it.
Just Google it. Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram for me too. C Morgan WX on Twitter, and then you can just search Christian Morgan WFMY on Facebook, and then C Morgan WX on Instagram as well.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll do another one of these soon.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.